Understanding the United Nations is key to understanding international politics. For one, many of the most controversial conflicts in recent history can be partly traced to actions sanctioned by the UN. For example, the Israeli-Palestine conflict materialized due to a UN partition of Palestine, and in the 1950s, the United Nations approved of a US-led intervention in the Korean War. So how exactly does the United Nations work? Well, the whole purpose of the UN is to promote cooperation between nation-states. As of 2016, there are 193 members. Notable non-members include Taiwan, Kosovo, and Palestine, which is recognized as an observer state. The structure of the United Nations is laid out in its founding document, the United Nations Charter. This document describes the process for legislative, judicial, and executive processes. Primarily, decisions are controlled by the United Nations system, which is composed of 6 principal organs and various specialized agencies. The General Assembly is the main legislative branch, and all member states have equal representation within it. Meetings of the General Assembly usually focus on resolutions, which are non-binding recommendations, which at least 50% of the United Nations members recognized as important to international affairs. The General Assembly also controls the budget, and in doing so will decide how much each member is compelled to spend to keep the organization alive. A controversial aspect of the General Assembly is a consequence of the equal representation. This one state, one vote system potentially allows a resolution to pass with 2/3 support by nations that only comprise 5% of the world population. The Security Council is possibly the most controversial of the 6 organs, however, and for a good reason. This organ oversees international security matters, including peacekeeping operations and United Nations membership. There are 5 permanent members of the Council, for reasons that I went over in this video. But there are also 10 non-permanent members who are voted on by the aforementioned General Assembly. Unlike the decisions made by the General Assembly, Security Council resolutions are meant to compel military action from its members. Relatively recently, however, the Security Council failed to authorize the United States invasion of Iraq, calling into question the effectiveness of its binding agreements. The administrative work of the United Nations is done by its Secretariat. The Secretariat is responsible for the drafting of official documents and preparing the budget voted on by the General Assembly. The head of the Secretariat is the Secretary General, who acts as a de facto spokesperson for the United Nations. At the time this video is published, the Secretary General is Ban Ki-moon from South Korea. The International Court of Justice is the primary judicial body of the United Nations. It settles disputes between members that have recognized its authority on the matters. If a member refuses to recognize the authority of the court, the matter may be brought to the Security Council. The court is composed of 15 judges trained in international law and voted in by the General Assembly. The Trusteeship Council is a principal organ but has been inactive since 1994. It was responsible for preparing trust territories, or countries that were formerly under the control of sovereign colonialists, for proper entry into the community of independent states. After Palau became independent, the body was declared extinct indefinitely. Finally, the Economic and Social Council decides how best to coordinate the United Nations specialized agencies. The specialized agencies carry out actions not normally associated with any other organ and are centrally focused on the development and expansion of trade, economic growth, and social unity. The Economic and Social Council holds 54 members and is led by a president voted in for a 1-year term. Among the specialized agencies include the International Monetary Fund, which promotes economic prosperity, and the World Health Organization, which aims to reduce infectious disease. In addition, the Food and Agriculture Organization has a goal to defeat hunger worldwide. In 1990, nearly 1 in 5 people worldwide were undernourished. Now that number is less than 1 in 9. And while we can't say that the United Nations is completely to thank for this drastic reduction in hunger, its continuing mission to strengthen ties with countries and break down barriers between people certainly hasn't made hunger worse.